Hi, I'm Raquel
Hey, how
from
you doing?
Pangeles. I'm fine, and you? I'm Raquel from
I'm
Pangeles.
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking the time today to talk with me.
Thanks to you. Well, my first question is tell me one thing you love and one thing you hate about Jax.
About what?
About Jax, your character.
Oh, um, okay. I love the fact that Jax is a champion. I love the fact that, anyone who is able to be successful at a craft has to ultimately sacrifice something in their life to get there. And what I hate about Jax is the sacrifices that he makes in ruining relationships so that he ultimately doesn't let people get close to him, so that they can hurt him. So those two things I think are very admirable and dishonorable. It's just one of those things where Jax is, he's ultimately a champion. He works really hard at what he does, and he's a killer, or someone who can, really lay the law down in the ring. But then outside of the ring, he has so many flaws, and he hurts so many people, and that's the part that I, don't like.
Okay, talking about that, do you think the way Perfect Addiction focus on Jack's toxic behavior is important, and why?
I think that it's interesting because we go through periods in our lives where we might have more toxic behavior than others. And I'm not condoning Jax's actions, but in order to learn about yourself, you have to go through certain situations and have different repercussions for your actions. And that happens with all of us. I mean, there's been times in my life where I've done things that I may not be proud of, but ultimately, if I learn from it and I don't make that same mistake again, I become a better man because of it. And I think that that ultimately leads into Jax's character and the future of Perfect Addiction. There's Perfect Redemption, which is the second book. And I think that that's an opportunity for Jax to redeem himself. And I think that's what's so cool about the end of the film. It's, he's in the hospital. He just punched his ex-girlfriend of 3 years, who he desperately loved, but wasn't man enough to let her ultimately be the woman of his life because of whatever inner dialogue he was dealing with, whatever inner struggles he was going through. It didn't allow her to be that girl, be his wife, or be his ultimate end of story. He pushed her away, and he pushed her away in a really malicious way. But I think that no matter what we go through in our lives, we have a chance to redeem ourselves. And I was actually just saying in my last interview that when you wake up in the morning, you have choices to be made, and those choices either benefit the future you, or they ultimately inhibit you and keep you where you are. And like, that's what's the beauty of every day that we wake up. We have a choice to change our future. We have a choice to make decisions today that ultimately put us in a path of righteousness or down a dark hole. So I think with Jax's character, he made a lot of mistakes, and Sienna is very forgiving in the hospital, and I think that she sets up the position of like, hey, I'm not angry with you. And I think that we had something for 3 years, so there was something there that was important to them and that kept them strong. But is it strong enough to meet again? I don't know. But I think Jax is ultimately better because of the mistakes he made, if he learns from them. If he doesn't, well, then he's just an asshole.
I absolutely agree on your I love your answer. So do you think that um at the end of the movie seeing Sienna at the hospital is the first step for Jack's redemption?
Yeah, I think that was hard for him because when I was thinking about the character choices, ultimately, he made a really bad decision and slept with, Sienna's sister, which is like, it's just an absolute no. Like, there's just no coming back from that. So I think he knows that once it's done, it's done. And like, he obviously flirts with the idea of like taunting her and her coming back and things, but he just knows that the damage has already been done. So he kind of continues down his war path in destruction. But once he causes an actual physical, pain to Sienna, I think we see that switch happen. It's not just an emotional feeling. It's like, oh, I could have killed you. I need to address my issues and I need to fix them before I ultimately end up in jail or dead. And it's like one of those, that was my decision as an actor. I was like, okay, if I hurt a girl and I hurt her emotionally, an immature mind won't learn from that. An immature mind will just be like, you know what, it is what it is. Maybe make up excuses as to why it happened. It wasn't my fault, these things. But when you have a physical ailment that happens where you ultimately could have killed the girl that you loved, I think that triggers something in you to be like, all right, I got to switch up what I'm doing and I got to figure out what's best for me. So I think him coming in at the end was more of a, you know, a situation where he's like, all right, I got to make this right. I can't be, you know, this dark person anymore. I need to figure out what's good for me and what's going to be the ultimate redemption story.
I really like your point of view because at first I just think that Jax is, an asshole. But with
Right.
your point of view, I really understand him more. And
Yeah, at first I thought of it the way that you did, you know, I'm like, why is he coming to the hospital after he just slept with her sister, then he punched her in the face on accident, obviously, but like his turmoil is just so detrimental to the girl that he supposedly loved and was with for 3 years. So there's got to be some good in there. There's no way that this girl who is so pure and wholesome is going to stay with that person. So I think that, you know, you can be blind to the physical aspects of a relationship, but to a certain extent, if you've been with someone for that long, there's got to be that good in them that she saw. So I think that was what really came together for him. And he was like, all right, I got one chance. I got to go back. I'm not trying to get her back, but I just got to make sure that she's okay.
okay. And my last question is, Jack's story continues in Claudia Tan's book, Perfect Dream. Are you open to play Jax again in that history?
Yeah, I think that, you know, Jax, for me, originally, his, you know, dark character wasn't something that was super enticing. Like, I want to be the hero. I want to be the good guy. And that was always what really, you know, inspired me with acting. I love the, you know, the romantic comedies or the dramas where, like, you know, you ultimately come out on top. And I think for me to give Jax the redemption story would be very rewarding because I'd like to, you know, see him save himself. So yeah, it could possibly be something that that happens, hopefully.
Amazing. Well, thank you for your time. It was amazing talking to you. And
Thank
I
you.
love the movie. I want you to know.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for watching it.